Welcome everybody to day 2 of preseason testing here at Barcelona, the final one at Barcelona before we head off to the Middle East in Bahrain. Of course, we've got different commentators for today. Obviously, yesterday you had Rob and Rabi in the commentators. Well, we're not those two. I am JW97, and today I'm joined by former Williams test driver Dennis Graff.
Good evening.
So, we are here for day 2, and after yesterday in day 1, which saw the top 4 consisting of Mercedes and Red Bulls, with Franco Gamba splitting the two Mercedeses, with Armar topping the session, and Franco Lopez, the defending champion, being in 3rd position. You have to say yesterday was a very interesting day 1, but we are here for day 2, and for a lot of people, this is their last chance to try and equalise. Well, for 11 of the drivers, they need to hope to equalise if they've got any chance of being there in day 4. But I think without further ado, we have a dry session for day 2, like in day 1. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, from yesterday, Dennis, what did you make of yesterday's session?
Well, yesterday was quite exciting and interesting, of course, to see the new cars and the new drivers. Yeah.
Yep, indeed. So, of course, in this, I'll be going through the driver lineup because I know that Ra didn't do a particularly good job yesterday. But a couple of things I need to bring up as well. There have been some tweaks since yesterday with certain helmets. Certain cars as well. Some fixes have been made with the Alfa Tauri because, of course, yesterday Chris and David's numbers were the wrong way around, so that has been corrected. Also, as well, the Mercedes, that has had a fix as well, I believe, in that the shininess has disappeared, so that shouldn't be a problem either. But also on top of that as well, we also have some. I think there's some other adjustments as well in terms of some helmets as well. Obviously, yesterday Roberto Gamba was meant to have a special helmet to pay tribute to his and Franco's grandparents who sadly passed away recently. So he'll be running a black helmet for today's session, and then he'll be back to his normal helmet for the final 2 days. But we've got testing on the way, and the first one on the track is Joseph Willow. So for a lot of people, a bit of an adjustment to see Joseph in a McLaren, of course, given that the last 9 years he was at Ferrari, but he's back to the team that he got his 2 world titles with. And for, as I said, it's going to take a lot of getting used to, I think, to see Joseph in papaya colours for 2020. His teammate, of course, being Kirishima DeRosa. His helmet being based on his 2006 and 2007 helmets, but meshed up together, so to speak. So it should be quite interesting indeed, as well as makes his way through the hairpin. Now, I will go through the driver lineup because I know that Ra kind of did a little bit of a kind of took the mickey with it. So I'm going to do it properly if you don't mind. So let's go through them properly then. So we'll start off with defending champions Mercedes. They have no changes from last season. They retain their lineup of defending champion Franco Lopez and Armar, who is looking determined to put the disappointment of last season behind him and fight for the championship. Lopez, of course, carrying the number 1 on his car. The first time we've seen the number 1 on anyone's car since 2016. The last person, of course, being Florian Volker. And as you still saw there with the Mercedes, the shininess has now gone from the front wing, so that should no longer be a problem. So next up we go to Ferrari. It looks like they may be struggling for this season compared to last season, but they seem to be decent when it comes to the top half of the midfield, judging from yesterday. Their driver lineup, Laura Chung stays on for another season, and she will be joined by the returning Roberto Gamba, the Italian driving for the Italian team. Pretty much a dream made in heaven, so to speak. Next up we have Red Bull. No changes on that front either. They retain their lineup of Franco Gamba and Miklos Gau. Miklos Gau looking to continue the great momentum that he had in 2019 into 2020, and Franco Gamba looking to put 2019 behind him and have a better 2020. And if testing is anything to go for, he might have got off to a best of starts, splitting the two Mercedes. Moving on to McLaren, we've got one McLaren on the screen. That is Joseph Willows, who's moved over to McLaren after 9 years with the prancing horse. His teammate will be Kirishima DeRosa, who remains with the team for another season. Moving over to Alfa Romeo, they retain their lineup of Gabriel Gomez and Andrea Vaderi. Will be interesting to see, given that those two had a bit of a shaky season in 2019. They'll be looking to put that behind them if they can, as this looks like Armar getting by there on Felix Sontag. Moving over to AlphaTauri, the renamed AlphaTauri. After last season, they were known as Toro Rosso. They retained David Cupot for another season, and he's joined by the pretty much, you could say, a contender for Rookie of the Season in 2019, that being Chris Chatfield, who's moved over to AlphaTauri after spending a season at Haas. Moving over to Renault, they retained Evan Byrne for another season, and he was originally meant to be partnered by Paulino Tomaselli, but for reasons that you guys know about by now, and I won't get too much into discussions, he will not be driving for Renault in 2020. He is instead been replaced by Jake Galloway, who got a late call-up to Renault, and he will be driving for that team for this season after finishing 4th in the GP2 Championship and, of course, winning the 2016 Formula E Championship when he was known as Seb Prixart, of course. Moving over to Racing Point, or the Pink Mercedes, as everybody's been referring to, including myself, they retained their lineup of Roland Motrin and George Rowe, both of them looking to have a great season in 2020. Moving over to Haas, who have ditched the Rich Energy colours. They have a new lineup consisting of 2019 DTM champion Daniel Fraser and 2019 GP2 champion and 2017 BTCC champion, let's not forget, Dudu Kirby. Moving over to Williams, we have Felix Sontag, who remains with the team for another season, and he is joined by Jamie Griffiths, who had an amazing season in GP2 last season and is finally making his top class debut. And finally, we move over to Manor, who enter their final season in the top class before being replaced by a new team, which will be announced later on down the line. Their lineup will consist of Rosetta Martinez, who will remain for another season, and he is joined by 2019 Formula E champion Emilia Wilson. So they are the lineups for 2020. I'll go through the test drivers later on down the line. But anyway, we got some lap times on the board as we were just talking there. Armar Carr currently tops the session by 5 tenths ahead of the 2 racing points, in fact, of Roke and Motrin. So far, it seemed that there was a lot of traffic for some guys, but so far a good start to Racing Point, Dennis.
Yep, indeed. They're showing that the copied Mercedes from 2019, the big Mercedes, is still a good car.
Indeed. Definitely not a copy of the 2019 Mercedes. They seem to have that massive photocopier that Yuri was referring to last year, and it seems to have worked out for them at the moment. So, meanwhile, Daniel Fraser's just got up into 13th as Gal is being held up by one of the Williamses here. Not quite sure which Williams it is. So, we'll go through the test drivers now. Whilst we're at it and we're looking at all these onboards. So the test drivers for this season, now this is going to be important because you will be seeing them on day 4 as Roland Motrin gets above his teammate to go up into 2nd place at this point in time, just getting ahead of George Rowe. Roberto Gamba currently 4th for the moment in the Ferrari. And so far, Roberto showing some good signs at his return to the top class after a season now in DTM. But anyway, the test drivers of the season. Mercedes once again have Rifki Fakhrizadeh as their teammate for 2020, as the test driver for 2020, I should say. Ferrari, they will have Bartosz Kloss as their test driver, the former Haas and Sauber driver. Red Bull will have Lorenzo Tomaselli as their test driver. It should be interesting to see how Lorenzo does in a Red Bull on day 4. Then we have McLaren, who originally were meant to have Jake Galloway as their test driver, but due to the situation that revolved around Renault, they will instead have Hento Sinanome as their test driver, the man who really improved in Formula E last season and will be making the step up to GP2 in 2020 with Carlin, of course. Moving over to Alfa Romeo, their test driver will be Bent Valdinga, who is, of course, teammates of the previous Alfa Romeo test driver, Aaron Curtis. Of course, those two will not be teammates in GP2 this season, of course. Aaron Curtis moving over to Trident. We then move over to AlphaTauri. Their test driver will once again be Ruslan Protsiuk after he just missed out on getting a drive at that team. Then we move over to Renault, who will have 2019 BTCC champion Jesus Perinen as their test driver, or as Yuri and many people call him, Jesus. Then we go over to Racing Point. Their test driver will be former Williams driver Lynn Campana, who has a very interesting helmet that I had to do some research upon during the off-season, so look out for that on day 4. Then we move over to Haas. Their test driver will be former Haas driver Jared Fosbury. Haas keep hold of Jared, but this time as a test driver. Williams will have Joseph Frederick Suto, the Formula E runner-up, as their test driver. Of course, he'll be making his debut in GP2 in 2020. And then finally, we have Manor, who have Maxim Titkov as their test driver. They keep hold of Maxim for another season, but this time just as a test driver after he lost out on the seat to Emilia Wilson. As Daniel Fraser there, just up towards La Casa, I believe that corner's called, or I believe that's the next corner La Casa is called. But turn 8, he made a little bit of a mistake there. Daniel Fraser, of course, you have to say so far, looking very strong in the Haas. He was strong yesterday, but it seems today he seems to have continued that pace, Dennis.
Yeah, he's hoping that he can keep his pace. Yeah, he shows that he can be good in that car. Yeah, let's see how it develops.
Indeed, we're now riding on board with Roberto Gamba, who's trying to find a way through on Kirishima De Rosa. Of course, Roberto, as mentioned earlier, he's wearing a special helmet for today in tribute to his grandparents who recently passed away the same grandparents of Franco Gamba. Franco has also been carrying a little tribute on his helmet from day one, and I believe he's still got that helmet for day 2 as well. But Roberto only wanted the black helmet for day 2. It'll be back to normal for day 3. It was originally meant for day 1, but of course, Yuri being Yuri forgot. So, that's why he's got it for day 2 instead. As now look at Joseph Willows, of course, currently lying down in 16th position, and he's going back into the pits on this lap. Now, I might as well go through the current score sheet because 11 of these drivers need to try and equal the score today if they want any chance of still being in the car for day 4. So the current score sheet, I'll get it up on Discord because I did post it there. They are as follows, as I will scroll up as best as I can and try and find it. A bit of a long scroll this one is. There it is, I just found it. So the current scores are as follows. It is, and I'll try and do it in the same way as Soccer Saturday. The current testing scores. Franco Lopez 0, Amar Khan 1. Laura Chung 1, Roberto Gamba 0. Franco Gamba 1, Miklos Gao 0. Kirishima De Rosa 1, Joseph Willows 0. Gabriel Gomez 0, Andre Vaderi 1. Chris Chatfield 0, David Kupak 1. Jake Galloway 0, Evan Byrne 1. Roland Motrin 0, George Roke 1. Daniel Fraser 1, Dudu Kirby 0. Felix Sontag 0, Jamie Griffiths 1. And Amelia Wilson 0, Rosetta Martinez 1. They are the current scores, and for those who are sitting on 0, they need to equalise today if they want to take part on day 4. Now, that's that really. So of course I'll repeat the same message that Yuri said yesterday. If you spot any editing errors with any of the cars, for example, then do let him know, or even let Evan know if you want to as well, because we know that Evan has been doing a lot of work with these liveries, especially putting in a lot of personalised sponsors, as we've seen with the Haas. They've got Deutsche Poster on the car, which is the company that owns DHL, and I think Dennis is obviously familiar with that company, given that he lives in Germany. Yep. That's that, and we also saw that the Renault has had Estrella Galicia added back onto the car. Obviously, they didn't have it last season, given that in real life, Carlos Sainz Jr. went to McLaren. So we've essentially got 2 cars on the grid, I believe, that have Estrella Galicia, unless Evan removed the Estrella Galicia logo off of the McLaren. Not 100% sure, but anyway, we now look at Franco Lopez, the defending champion, a fully deserved champion, you'd have to say, last season for Lopez, and he is looking to become only the second driver to become back-to-back champions. Do you believe he can do it, Dennis, or do you believe anybody can stop him in 2020?
Well, it's only preseason, so anything can happen, but he has a big chance to do it. But he will have stiff competition in form of Amar Khan and maybe the Red Bulls.
Yep, indeed. Well, we'll point out as well, because somebody asked a question about the Mercedes yesterday. I believe it was Felix Sontag. Sadly, there isn't a silver. There was the original livery for the Mercedes in 2020. It's sadly not available. Although there were pictures floating around on Grand Prix games, it never really got released. So the black version, which is a fantastic livery, don't get me wrong, personally better than what the livery they were planning for 2020 anyway, because, to be honest, the red never really worked with the silver. This is the only livery that's available on Grand Prix 4, but it's still a good-looking livery, nonetheless, obviously carrying a very good message as well, and so that's that. As we now look at Gabriel Gomez in the Alfa Romeo at the moment, 1/10 up on his personal best, currently lies down in 21st. The Alfa Romeo so far have been struggling, you'd have to say, during preseason testing, Dennis.
Yeah, also yesterday they weren't so good so far. I think the cars a bit less good than last season. Yeah, hopefully they can still get a good season with it.
Indeed, is meanwhile Roberto Gamba locking up there is also at the same time trying to avoid the Haas that was coming out of the pits. That looks like, I believe, that was the number 11, so that would be Daniel Fraser, of course, carrying the number 11. Or was it the 71, in fact, because I know that they're both similar, in fact. No, that's 71, in fact. I believe that's Dudu Kirby, who's just gone out onto the racetrack, currently lying down in its 17th position. So that's that, really. So I know there are a couple of things that Yuri still needs to to do some work on in terms of textures. One is the halo on the Racing Point. It's still got Perez and Stroll's initials on there, so Yuri will be looking to fix that before tomorrow on day 3. And also, he still needs to search for that missing texture that's on the Renault. In the cockpit, of course, because you saw yesterday it was covered in white. Yuri still needs to try and search for that missing texture if he can, so that it doesn't become an issue during the season. And he also needs to sort out the tweaker settings for the onboard camera so that you can actually see the driver's helmet. So we now look at Gomez, who's making a little bit of an error going through into turn 4 there, locking up the tyres there. So that's that. But anyway, there's something else I needed to point out. Oh, yes, it's the 1 Series. Meantime, the 2 McLarens of De Rosa and Willows improved to go to 11th and 12th, respectively, as the Sontag gets up to 17th ahead of teammate Griffiths. But one thing I need to point out, obviously, as you would have seen, we do have a new series that's come about called the OC Entrance Series. Now, I bring this up because it is for drivers who missed out on a seat in 2020. But as some people you may have noticed, it's only got 5 sign-ups at the moment. Now, of course, we're still keeping our hopes up that some more people will sign up, but for the last few days, it's just been stuck on 5 sign-ups. So I do have an idea that could help Yuri get that series underway, but I'm going to hold back on that idea for the moment. So if you are interested and you didn't get a seat for 2020, then you've still got a chance to be in the entrance series, which will comprise of 5 races that are on the top class calendar, they being the Paul Ricard in France, Spielberg in Austria, Silverstone in Great Britain, Monza in Italy, and Sochi in Russia. So only 5 races. I presume the point system, because I know that Yuri hasn't mentioned anything about a point system in that series, I presume it's probably going to be the same as the top class? Maybe? Quite catch that, Yuri. Okay, and fastest lap bonus point, I presume. Okay, so Theo then. So I've just been informed there by Yuri. The point system, it's similar to the top class. The top 10 get points, so 25, 18, 15, 12, 10, etc, etc, etc. You also have the bonus point for the fastest lap, providing that you finish in the top 10. But there's also 2 bonus points for pole position in that series as well. So do bear in mind with that. I might put that up on Twitter a little bit later on to remind people. But that is the point system for the entrance series. So again, if you've missed out on a drive in either one of the 5 tiers, whether that be the top class, GP2, DTM, Formula E, or BTCC, then you can sign up for the entrance series. That will be open for however long Yuri feels, to be honest. He has said he'll do a separate announcement at a time when he'll announce when the sign-ups close, of course. Although he did put a little bit of a typo in the pinned comment, but I won't get onto that. As that really is Gabriel Gomez now. Then makes it down straight. As meanwhile, Jake Galloway gets up into 8th position. I will point out because there are some 3-letter prefixes that look a little bit strange. As it looks like we've got a problem for Franco Gamba. It's a brake issue for Franco Gamba, and that's a mechanical failure for a Red Bull, a team that you don't really expect to have a mechanical failure in testing. Well, at least it is only testing and not practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, a brake failure for Franco Gamba, and hopefully the car comes to a stop and doesn't crawl back onto the racing line, and it does so. But so Franco Gamba will have to get into the T car if he wants to continue for the remainder of the session. But yeah, not the day 2 that Franco wanted, indeed, Dennis.
Yeah, and it's always bad to have a problem, especially in preseason testing when it's not that much time to test. Yeah, every minute of testing is vital.
Indeed, and given that we saw yesterday that the Red Bull seemed to be in the mix with the Mercedes, this is not what they were looking for, a mechanical failure on one of the testing days. But as said, at least it happened in testing and not in the actual season, of course. And the brake failure you just saw there happened down on the pit straight there, just as Franco missed the pits there, which is a bit of a shame. And unfortunately, it meant he had to crawl around and meant he couldn't make it back as a result. So that's that really, as Gamba pulls off to the side of the track, and he'll have to get into the T car if he wants to continue for the remainder of the session. The Red Bull, of course, having a different front nose than what it had last season, a thinner profile. It must be said. So that's that really, as his car's been hoisted over the barriers and he'll run back to the pits to get into the spare car. Franco Lopez, though, currently down in 6th position behind Franco Gamba. But we saw yesterday as well, it must be said, Dennis, that towards the end of the session we saw a lot of lap times coming in quite fast, and especially from the likes of Laura Chung and the 2 Racing Points as well. A lot of lap times towards the end of the session were coming in, including Miklos Gal and Franco Gamba.
Yeah, I think in the beginning they're focusing on long runs, and in the end they're more tend to do fast laps. I think that's my explanation for it.
Indeed. Now, what I was about to say before Franco had his mechanical failure there was that there are some prefixes that may be a bit confusing to you, because we have Gal and Galloway and we have Willows and Wilson. So, just to clear things up, GAL is for Miklos Gal and GAO is for Jake Galloway, and also as well, WIL is Joseph Willows and WIS is Amelia Wilson. So just thought I would clarify that one for the season coming up. And of course as well, we have the return of FGA and RGA as well, given that Roberto Gamba is back in the series full time. So that's that really, as we now have Gabriel Gomez approaching the hairpin now then, as he makes his way through the left-hander. 9 thousandths up on his personal best, but not by a lot. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to still keep that up in the last sector. Currently in 16th position at the moment, ahead of the Williams of Felix Sontag. And it's safe to say that the midfield battle, as we saw from yesterday, looking to be very, very close, it must be said. But also, I would also say, judging from today, I think the back of the field could be very interesting as well, with Alfa Romeo, Haas, Williams, and even Manor looking pretty close.
Yep, indeed. That's many interesting things in this cruise ahead. So yeah, let's see. And of course, if in the front midfield, if there are many diamonds in the race, which always can happen, the back market teams can also be up for scoring some points.
Yep, indeed, as we now have one of those cars. In fact, Jamie Griffiths in the Williams, finally making his top-class debut after a while. Now, I do know that the Rocket version of the Williams is available on Grand Prix 4. I don't know if it's still got a download link, but I still have it on my computer because I downloaded it before they changed their livery. And this was during the first lockdown, let's not forget. So, I still have the Colgate toothpaste liveried Williams, so if Felix or Jamie are interested in possibly having that livery for one race, because I know that you are allowed to change your livery at least once during the season, providing the 2 drivers agree, of course, then they can do. As meantime, Franco Lopez goes to the top of the timing sheets to make it a Mercedes 1-2 with a 1 minute 21.082. Now, I'm going to check whether that's quicker than Amar Khan's lap time from yesterday,
It is
because I know
quicker
his time
than yesterday.
1 minute 21 as well. So I'm going to check. I think it's pretty close, but I'm going to double check.
1/10.
Yes, it is. It is quicker. It is 1/10 quicker than Amar Khan's time from yesterday. So far, Lopez has had the quickest time here in Barcelona. But could that change in these remaining 25 minutes or so? As we look at Daniel Freitas, who has got Gabriel Gomez trying to overtake him. Both of them powered, of course, by the Ferrari engine, which seems to be slower compared to last season. Of course, Ferrari had the best engine in 2019, but it seems they have the slowest in 2020. Given that there may have been some illegal on-doings going on with Ferrari and a bit of a secret handshake that went on between themselves and Yuri Mata. So, to do with the fact that Yuri was a test driver last year. So, moving on. We now look at Andre Vaderi, who's improved. Well, not Andre Vaderi. We're looking at Gabriel Gomez. I was looking at Vaderi's name on the bottom left because he actually is improved, but only up by 1 position. He's only just got ahead of Martinez to get up into 20th position. The 2 Manners at the back of the field at the moment, separated by just under 5 tenths between Martinez and Wilson, as Gomez makes his way around a long swooping right-hander. It would be interesting to see what happens to Martinez and Wilson after this season, of course, given that Manor are pulling out at the end of 2020, and we will be having a new team that replaces them, because of course in sign-up terms the new 11th team has no relation to Manor, so they won't be able to use their Manor team connection for that one in the sign-up. So it will be interesting to see what happens to Martinez and Wilson after this season, whether they'll end up in a different team or not. It's another question. So if they do want to be on the grid next season, they've really got to get a good season on their belt in Manor's last season, Dennis.
Yeah, but still too early to say if they will have a good season, because it's just preseason testing. So as I said before, everything can happen here.
It's meantime, we had a Renault and a Haas going side by side there of Galloway and I believe Fraser. We now look back at Roberto Gamba, the man who's replaced Joseph Willows at Ferrari. Of course, Ferrari seems to have dropped back in terms of pace, but I think it's safe to say, surprisingly, Roberto has actually shown some pretty good pace in that Ferrari.
Yep, he definitely has yesterday and of course today also. Yeah, it seems like he's got a good feel for the car already.
Indeed, and you can see where the missing texture is on that Renault. Hopefully Yuri can try and find it before tomorrow's day 3 so that it doesn't have that white texture, and hopefully sort out the tweaker settings for the onboard cameras. We look at Felix Sonntag, who I believe just made a little error going into the into turn 6 and 7 there. And he's still up on his personal best though in the second sector, but he might get held up by these two in front of Galloway and Fraser if he is not careful, which could affect him. Although I don't think he would mind it. He wouldn't mind it too much if it was down the straight, because he could get himself an extra bit of slipstream. As we now look back at Roberto Gamba, who is now on the back of one of the racing points has just come out of the pits, that being George Roque, because it's the number 99. Roque, of course, switching helmets for this season. Last season, of course, he had the Jenson Button helmet. This season, he's carrying the Antonio Giovinazzi helmet. So, and to be fair, it does actually kind of suit the racing point. In fact, Fraser's helmet, because he's using Vettel's 2021 helmet, does actually suit the Haas. To be honest with you, it's fair to say. In fact, a lot of the helmets that you wouldn't associate with some of these teams are actually suited quite well. In fact, I'm surprised how much the red and white helmet actually suits the Mercedes that Armar is driving, because he's gone back to the colours he had in 2018 for hope of better luck, so to speak, because he obviously had some good luck in 2018 when he was at Ferrari, and then when he had the Mercedes colours on his helmet, it didn't quite work out. So he's reverted back to the colours he had in 2018, and so far, going well for him so far. The luck seems to be swinging his way at the moment, although he did show some very good pace towards the end of 2019, of course, and he'll be looking to continue that into 2020 if he can, and hope to, at long last, win his first world title and take it off his own teammate. But we still have the season to go, as Roberto Gamba looks to have cleared the racing point. In fact, he's actually overtaken it, which is a bit of a surprise considering that the Ferrari seems to be down on power on the straights, but he's up on his personal best in the first sector. We look now at Rosetta and the Manor, of course, the livery created by yours truly, to mark their final season, and they'll be hoping to have a great year indeed, as it looks like they're going to be in a fight with the likes of Williams, Haas, and of course Alfa Romeo. So it should be quite interesting there. As down through the hairpin goes Rosetta Martinez with the message, "Thank you for the memories and one last hurrah" on the rear wing. Now Gamba through the left and then through the long swooping right-hander. As meanwhile Felix Sonntag gets up into 14th, gets behind Laura Chung. If only he put Ferrari as his first choice, eh? Oh dear.
Yeah, he would have been P7 now.
Indeed, he would have been Laura's teammate instead of Roberto. But that's how the sign-ups work. It can be kind and it can be cruel. But Felix is looking at this as a long-term project, as he alluded to in the stream chat, being at Williams, and he'll be hoping to turn Williams' fortunes around, especially when we get into the fantasy era, and make them a front runner if he can. As we now look at David Kupok with his updated helmet, it must be said Evan's done a very good job with that helmet, it's safe to say. As Roberto Gamba makes his way towards turn 4. Meanwhile, Gal's still getting held up by traffic, and he's still trying to find a way past the man of Rosetta Martinez, and he's going to have more traffic to deal with in a minute, because the Haas of Daniel Fraser is coming out of the pits. Gal has just managed to get by on Martinez, but I think he's going to have Fraser for company now. So more frustrations there for the Hungarian. So we now ride back on board with Roberto Gamba. So we look at the current score sheet at the moment. At the moment, it will all be level between the Mercedes of Lopez and Cars. Gal just had a look up there going through into turn 4. So far, it'll all be dead level between the two Mercedes of Car and Lopez at this stage. It'll be dead level between the two Racing Points at the moment. Dead level between the two Red Bulls at this stage. Dead level between the two Ferraris. Dead level between the two Renaults. Kupok at the moment will win his battle against Chatfield, which will mean that Prix will replace Chatfield in the Alfa Tauri for day 4. At the moment, De Rosa will win the battle against Willows in the McLaren. So at the moment, it looks like Hento Sinonen will take Willows' place on day 4. What else? The Williamses at the moment, they will all be tied up between Sonntag and Griffiths. Fraser at the moment will win his battle against Kirby, which will mean that Fosbury will take Kirby's seat on day 4. Gomez at the moment will make it level with Vaderi, so it'll all be tied up at the moment between the two Alfa Romeos going into day 3. And at the moment, Martinez will win his battle against Wilson, which will mean that Titkov will take Wilson's place on day 4. So that's how it looks at this point in time, as Roberto is down on his personal best in the first sector. But we've still got 18 minutes to go. Anything can still change, as we saw yesterday towards the back end of day 1. So, so far then, looking at the leaderboard, Dennis, who do you think has been the most impressive on day 2?
Definitely the Racing Points, I would say. They have great pace, although they are 6 or 7 tenths behind the Mercedes, but P3 and 4 are still impressive. Then I would say the 2 Alpha Tauris and P9, P10, solid work from them so far. Then Sonntag and Fraser, good job so far from them.
Indeed, it looks like as well that Williams seems to have turned a corner compared to the last season, because they were a little bit down on pace, it must be said, compared to last season, and they'll be hoping that it's not going to be too much down on pace this season, and they can really get into the fight towards the back of the field, basically, with Haas and Haas, Manor, and it looks like so far Alfa Romeo, because it seems that they've also dropped some pace so far in this testing session. The two Garmers still close together at the moment, only 8,000 separating them, as Laura Chung, speaking of Ferraris, goes up into 8th position just behind his teammate Roberto. So it's 7 and 8 now for the two Ferraris. So Chung managing to get her Ferrari into the top 10, but still not enough to try and win the battle between herself and Roberto at this point in time. As speaking of Roberto, who's going back into the pits, Fraser improves to go up into 14th, gets in front of Felix Sonntag at this point in time, so a big improvement there from the 2019 DTM champion. As now we look at Roberto, who's heading back into the pits, of course, at this lap. And obviously no mission win now on this car. There is a mission win now version of that car available on Grand Prix 4, and also the Tuscan Grand Prix livery as well for Ferrari that's available on Grand Prix 4 as well. You know, the burgundy red Ferrari. Ah, okay.
Oh, nice.
I think I will reveal that one. Yuri has just told me right there that that the Ferrari drivers don't even need to request for the burgundy livery, because Ferrari will be losing that livery at the Italian Grand Prix. So the livery they used in the real life Tuscan Grand Prix at Mugello to celebrate their 1000th Grand Prix, they'll be using that at Monza this season. So do be on the lookout for that. So that's that, as we now ride on board with Miklos Gowers. Meantime, Laura Chung improves a little bit further, but still is in 8th position behind her teammate Roberto Gamba, and only 2 thousandths quicker than Jake Galloway at the moment. So pretty close between those two at this point in time. As we now look at Rosetta Martinez with the added Virgin sponsor. I believe that Evan added that sponsor in, or was it Yuri? I'm not 100% sure, but somebody added the Virgin sponsor on. Basically a throwback to the Virgin Racing days for that team, especially given it's their last season. As Jamie Griffiths, meanwhile, doesn't improve, as he remains he is at the moment, which is P18 behind Gabriel Gomez. And he was originally meant to have a Juan Pablo Montoya helmet, but right at the last second, he's actually using a Dale Earnhardt tribute helmet, the late great Dale Earnhardt from NASCAR. He's using that helmet, and it's safe to say it really suits that Williams very well indeed, and a very nice tribute helmet indeed for Jamie Griffiths. As now this is way down the hill. Meantime, Wilson gets up to 21st, gets in front of Martinez. So at the moment, it will all be dead level between the two Manos. So Wilson able to get in front of a more experienced teammate, Rosetta Martinez. And she just had a look up there through into turn 1. We just saw there. Obviously, she's wearing a Tatiana Calderon helmet for her time in the top class. And she'll be hoping, as somebody alluded to in the stream chat, hope to have a better career than what Tatiana did in F2, so to speak. So, start as we now look at Jamie Griffiths, who goes around the long swooping right-hander, and now making his way through the chicane which George keeps alluding to every season in the highlights, and I would not be surprised if he alludes to it still in the top class highlights for 2020. The chicane that kills the flow of this track, and I don't think anybody can disagree with that, to be honest with you. And But he has said that there's one Spanish track that's worse than Barcelona, and it's called Jerez. And given the rumour today, it looks like it's going to be a reserve track again, like it was back in the 90s for next year. That's going to be very interesting. So that's that. As now we look at Griffiths heading his way out of Sector 1. He's coming back into the pits. His lap. Just over 14 minutes to go in this session. And Blake Moore saying the chicken of death for that chicken, the quick chicken. Meantime, Evan Byrne improves on his lap to go up into P11, but still not ahead of his teammate Jake Galloway. So still at the moment, it will all be tied up between the two Renaults at this point. Now look at Laura Chung coming out of the chicane. Now through the final corner, and she's not on an improvement, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's not able to find anything in the last sector, but let's just check to be sure, and no, she doesn't, of course. Spain, good memories for Laura, of course, because this is where she got her first ever win last season in the top class, but if this Ferrari is anything to go by, she might have some difficulty doing that this season. Not saying it's impossible, because we have seen midfield cars win races in the OC in the past, but that hasn't happened for a few seasons. Maybe this season may change that, given as we see in the pace at the moment between Racing Points and even the Ferraris to some extent in the midfield. We still need to see what the McLaren has to offer, I think, and also the Alfa Towers as well, and also in a way the Renaults as well. So it'll be interesting. Joseph Willows not able to improve, remains down in 14th position as he makes his way down the hill towards the first 3 corners on the racetrack. Taking the car in through turn 1 and then into turn 2, and the Estrella Galicia is still on the McLaren. I've just noticed there on the Halo, so there are actually 2 teams on the grid that have Estrella Galicia as a sponsor, the McLaren and of course the Renault. So Willows now then through the first sector, 1/10 down on his personal best. A few cars currently in the pits at the moment, consisting of Amar Carr, George Roque, Franco Gamba, Roberto Gamba, Jake Galloway, Felix Sontag, Jamie Griffiths, and Dudu Kirby. As meantime, Evan Byrne trying to find his way through on the other McLaren, that being Kirishima De Rosa, both of them powered by the Renault engine. Of course, we know that the Renault is a very draggy car on the straights, and it seems that's going to still be the case this season. As Byrne makes his way through the long sweeping right-hander, still getting stuck behind De Rosa at this point in time. Taking the car in through the second right-hander. Sorry, the third right-hander, I should say. I don't know what I'm talking about there, but there we are. As now makes his way down the straight. Also, hello, Jake and Jose Frederic Suto in the chat. Nice to see you guys. Of course, Suto you will be seeing on day 4 of preseason testing, as he is the new Williams test driver. I'm not trying to rub it into you, Dennis, but there we are.
Oh, good. so good, mate.
Good. So we got a mistake here from David Cupar.
Oh,
He's made a little bit of an error. Referring to turn 3. It's a bit of a common error that we see through this corner quite usually, and it seems that Cupar seems to be following the trend, and as expected, it is a bit of oversteer at the beginning of turn 3, running a little bit wide, but at least it wasn't a full-on spin or even a power slide that we saw from Joseph Willows 8 seasons ago in 2012, as not really what Cupar wanted there on the beginning of his lap. Cupar currently lying in the top 10, so at the moment he will be winning his battle against Chris Chatfield to be in the car on day 4. As Cupar makes his way down the hill before heading towards turn 6 and 7. That left-hander, for some reason, not being classed as a corner on this track for some odd reason. I really don't know why, to be honest with you, but that's up to the circuits at the end of the day, what they decide is a corner and what's not. We're not going to dispute that. 11 minutes to go in this session now then, so let's take a look at the current order as it stands. It's Franco Lopez currently at the top with Amar Carr in second, Roland Moch in third, George Roque in fourth, so essentially a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's Miklos Gal in fifth, with Franco Gamba sixth, the 2 Red Bulls being fifth and sixth, with Roberto Gamba in seventh, and then Laura Chung in eighth, the 2 Ferraris seventh and eighth, with Jake Galloway in ninth, David Cupar in 10th, Evan Byrne, who just had a lock up there into turn 4, is 11th, with Chris Chatfield in 12th, Kirishima De Rosa 13th, with teammate Joseph Willows 14th, Daniel Fraser in 15th, Felix Sontag 16th, Gabriel Gomez 17th, Jamie Griffiths 18th, Dudu Kirby in 19th, with Andrea Vaderi in 20th, Emilia Wilson in 21st, and Rosetta Martinez in 22nd and last. So that's how it currently looks at the moment, but we've still got just over 10 minutes left. Things can change, as we saw yesterday in day 1. They could be bound to change in theory, but you never know, of course. As we now look at Sontag, who looks like he's going to get overtaken. Well, looked like somebody was attempting to overtake him. It was one of the Alpha Towers, and that my guess that would be Chris Chatfield, because we've already seen David Cupar. So Presume that is Chris Chatfield who's currently behind him. As we now look at Franco Gamba trying to make his way through on the other Williams. That being Jamie Griffiths. He's trying to find a way through there. As Gamba was up on his personal best, but he's now come up to the back of Jamie Griffiths, so he'll need to dispose of him pretty quickly down the straight, if he's got any chance of trying to get up within the Mercedes and the racing points at this point in time. Out of the chicane now then, through final corner, and onto the pit straight. As Franco Gamba now then looking to the inside of Jamie Griffiths and doesn't improve as a result of being held up. He's got his car alongside, so he should be able to get the move done, and he has got the overlap on him into the first corner, and he even got him even before they got onto the first corner, so no real need there. Seems the Mercedes and the Honda still pretty equal on the straight, it must be said, just like last season, so that should be quite interesting to note. Let's see what Gamba's first sector is like. He's 1/10 up on his personal best, but 1/10 down on his fellow Franco in the first sector. He makes his way down towards turn 5. Obviously, drops off, and it's very easy to lose the back end coming out of the corner there. Through the left-hander that isn't classed as a corner. Through turns 6 and 7 goes Gamba now then, and we'll be soon seeing what his second sector is like to see if he can actually get up towards the Mercedes like he did yesterday when he was able to split the pair of them. Heading down the back straight now then, and his second sector, what's that going to consist of? He's 5/10 down, but still up on his personal best, but he seems to have lost time in the second sector, but luckily he's got no traffic in front, so he should be able to improve, but we will wait and see how that Red Bull is set up for this last sector. Into the last chicane goes Franco Gamba as he makes his way into the left and right-hander. The corner killers, well, I'd say corner killers, the flow killers of this track. As here is Gamba now making his way down the straight, and where is he going to place the Red Bull? And he goes up to 5th, gets in front of Gal, so he gets in front of his teammate. So at the moment, Gamba will win the teammate battle at the moment, and Gal will be replaced by Tomaselli on day 4 as it stands at this point in time. As at the moment, Franco Gamba will go 2-0 compared to his teammate as he swoops around turn 3 now then. And let's see if his first sector is still an improvement. Nope, 1/10 down on his personal best there, but he goes up into 5th, but still the Red Bull surprisingly not getting in front of the racing points at the moment, Dennis.
Yeah, it's surprising to be honest. I expect the Red Bull to be in 3rd and 4th here. We have one team that I'm shocked of the performance so far is McLaren, P13 and P14. What is going on there?
Yeah, indeed, not the pace that we expected from him. As George Rope makes an outrageous dive bomb on, I think that's the driver he had a lot of contact with last season, Evan Byrne. So George will be hoping that he and Evan also hoping that the pair of them do not come together this season as well, given that they seem to have pretty good cars for this season, it must be said. It seems to be a big improvement compared to last season for both of those cars. Renault hoping they don't have the reliability problems that they had last season, which played one of their cars in particular, Jay McKenzie to be exact, and they'll be hoping to sort the strategy problems out that team had last season as well, which kind of you could say made both Evan and Jay very angry last season, it must be said, and Evan will be hoping to control his anger this season as he'll be hoping that strategies are better for Renault this season. As we look at George Roque, who'll be coming back into the pits this lap as he attempts to pass, I believe that's Chris Chatfield. It looks like the Fernando Alonso helmet. As Griffiths, he's going wide into turn 4, and he's just been able to keep it together there. Very lucky indeed, but he's the second person to make a mistake into turn 3 there, Dennis.
Yeah. We need to see the on board. It's a great save here from Griffiths. Almost lost the car, but saved it.
Indeed, here's the onboard footage. As you can see there, it looked like he had some, I'd say more understeer than oversteer, because it didn't look like he had to make a sudden correction. I mean, you could see the wheel was turning, but I wouldn't say that's more oversteer. I'd say that was more understeer that Jamie got that time by. So clearly pushing the limits of that range, it must be said. Yep. So, as Armar Carr is right behind him as well, and he's going to get held up by Jamie. I don't think Armar's going to be particularly impressed with Jamie Griffiths being in front of him at this point in time. Meantime, Martinez and Willows improve there. Martinez goes up into 17th, so at the moment he will win his teammate battle against Wilson to go 2-0 up. Meantime, Willows will so far level the score between himself and Cairo at the moment. He's just got himself in front of Cairo, so at the moment it will be 1-1 between the two McLaren drivers. Up into 13th goes Willows. Still not ideal for McLaren though, but a good time for Martinez at the moment, Dennis.
Yeah, great time for Martinez. He shows what is Gabriel in this car. Yeah.
Time he held up a big traffic jam there. Did I think that was Roke that held up the traffic there? The cars behind him will get compromised as a result. As we run on board with Felix Sontag, who's being overtaken by the Red Bull of Miklos Gal. That is because that is a Max Verstappen helmet, and I know that Miklos wears a specific Max Verstappen helmet in the car. So there's Gal in that Red Bull, and obviously coming off the back of a much improved 2019 season and looking to continue momentum into 2020, where he hopes that Red Bull can fight for the title with Mercedes. But I don't think he's going to be pinning all of his hopes just yet. I mean, he was not getting too excited last season, it's fair to say, in the Discord chats. As meantime, Wilson improves to go up to 21st, which means Vaderi is now in last position, which is not where you expect Vaderi to be at the moment. As meantime, Fraser now is trying to get by on Felix Sontag, as Fraser tries to go on the inside but not able to. Lacking a little bit of straight line speed as the Haas with that Ferrari engine in the back, as they make their way through the long swooping right-hander. Vaderi, in fact, is in the pits at this point in time, as is Roke. Only 2 cars are in the pits at the moment, Roke and Vaderi. All the other 20 cars are out on track, so traffic's going to be seems to be a big thing towards the end of this session, with just over 4 minutes to go. As down through the hairpin now then goes Felix Sontag, and they now make their way down the hill towards turns 6 and 7 at the moment. As he's at the moment, Felix still holding up the Haas of Daniel Fraser. We'll see if Fraser's able to get him in that corner. All we won't do is we now look at the 2 Ferraris, in fact, because Roberto Gamba's right behind Laura Chung. Chung there making a mistake going through into turn 4, so the Ferrari is currently line astern at this point in time. Now, I hope that these two have put the 2018 Singapore Grand Prix behind them, because I know they had a bit of a collision there 2 seasons ago. So, and for Ferrari's sake, they'll be able to put that one to bed and hope to work together as a team if this Ferrari seems to be struggling, it seems, and hope to get at the upper end of the midfield, as we are expecting the midfield fight to be pretty close, it must be said. As now we look at Chung, who heads down towards the hairpin, and she's way off her personal best in the second sector. Most of that, you could say, could be down to that mistake, but maybe not. As Wilson, meanwhile, goes up into 19th position, gets in front of Griffiths, so 2 places now behind a more experienced teammate. But at the moment, Martinez will still go 2-0 up, as Fraser again tried to have a go at Sontag into the first corner there, but it wasn't going to work out there. As now through the turn 3 there goes Sontag, as Fraser will look to try and get him into turn 4, and he's going to have a little go, is he? But nope, he's going to think better of it. He's going to hang back at this point in time, and Fraser's coming back into the pit, so that's his session done with, and he's up in 15th. So at the moment, it looks like he's going to win the teammate fight between himself and Dudu Kirby, unless Kirby is able to improve in his remaining 2 and a bit minutes. As Fraser makes his way down the hill towards turns 6 and 7, but so far another satisfying session for Daniel Fraser to be up in 15th position, and safe to say that he seemed to be quite happy with day 1's performance, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's pretty happy with day 2's performance at this point in time. Here's Joseph Willows down on his personal best in the first sector, and he's got a manor in front of him which won't help him at all. Through the right-hander he goes as he makes his way down the straight before heading towards the hairpin. His second sector, 1 second off his personal best, and it looks like he's now going to get held up by the manor, which is not going to please him at all. But obviously a new challenge for Willows being here at McLaren, of course. He's hoping that when the fantasy era kicks in, McLaren can be back at the front challenging for wins and championships, of course. He's obviously putting his 100% winning record on the line by moving to McLaren here, so you could say it's a bit of a risk, but I think for Willows it's a risk worth taking, he's hoping, at least anyway, providing that McLaren are able to turn it around in the fantasy era. He does not improve, and he's going back into the pits, and here we open. He keeps hold of 13th ahead of De Rosa in order for him to have a chance of being in the car on day 4. As we now ride on board with Dudu Kirby wearing the 2015 Will Stevens helmet into the final corner, and onto the pit straight will go the 2019 GP2 champion. It doesn't look like he's going to improve in this remaining 1.5 minutes, and no, he doesn't. Gomez now then, rounding the final corner in the Alfa Romeo, his fellow compatriot, let's not forget, because there's now 2 Brazilians on the grid, both Gomez and Kirby. Sorry about that, I got interrupted. But as I was saying there, not so much improvements going on at the moment as Chris Chatfield didn't improve, nor did Jake Galloway, as his teammate Evan Byrne will just have enough to do one more lap. Here's Lopez, who currently tops the session, as he'll now make his way towards the final corner. Now making his way onto the straight with just under 1 minute to go, a few seconds left on the clock, and he does not improve. Here comes Amelia Wilson, heading out of the chicane to the final turn, onto the pit straight goes the American, the only American on the grid, of course. Kind of one American in for another, so to speak. Wilson doesn't improve. I think she has one more lap. I don't know if she got the pit symbol there. Carl will just have enough to do one more lap to see if he can try and win the battle between himself and Lopez. Here is George Rote now then in the Racing Point into the last chicane. Then will go the Racing Point driver. Final turn and onto the pit straight. Of course, this will be their last season before they rebrand as Aston Martin. Obviously, Yuri did confirm what the team names were. I think when he announced the Fantasy Era, he did confirm that Racing Point will be replaced by Aston Martin. So that's that really. But I think Renault are not going away, and McLaren are not changing to Mercedes engines. They're sticking to Renault for next season. And of course, the Team 11 you'll have to wait for a little bit later on down the line. I know what Team 11 is, but I'm not telling any of you. So that one I'm keeping close to my chest.
3,
so
2, 1, 0.
You go. Checker flag is now out, and I believe who was the last car to cross the line that time by? It was
I think it was a Haas.
It was Kirby. It was due to Kirby.
Yes.
He was the last to cross the line. I just double checked. So Garma doesn't improve. He remains in 5th position. And Gal got the checkered flag, so it's 1-1 between the two Renaults. Galloway doesn't improve. Here comes Evan Byrne on his one and only lap out of the pits. Out of the final turn and onto the pit straight goes the Irishman. It looks like it's going to be a tie between the Renaults, judging from the Delta on the top, but let's see anyway. Byrne crosses the line, no improvement. Lopez, meanwhile, can he improve on his 1 minute 21.082? No, he doesn't. Now look at Wilson, heading out of the final chicane. Around the final turn goes the American and onto the pit straight. It looks like Martinez is going to win this battle, but we're going to check anyway, just to be sure. Down the pit straight, across the line goes Wilson, and she doesn't improve, remains in 19th. So Martinez wins that battle. Car is improving, meanwhile. Can he get to the top by the end of the session? Can he make it 2 out of 2 days at the top across the line? And no, he can't. He improves, but remains in second place. George Rote now then, it looks like he's not going to improve, so it looks like it's going to be tied for the racing points as well, along with the Mercedes heading down the straight. And across the line now then will go George Rote, and he does not improve. Here comes Jamie Griffiths. Across the line will go the Welshman, and he does not improve. Andre Vaderi is on the improvement. Can he get out of last place? And he can. He goes up to 19th position, but doesn't beat Gomez, so it's all level there. Garma doesn't improve. Roland Motrin didn't have enough time to do a lap. Dudu Kirby crosses the line, and he remains in last position. And that is that. He was the final car to cross the line, and that is day 2 complete. So the top 3 being Franco Lopez, Amar Khan, and Roland Motrin. So what did you make of that session overall, Dennis?
Yeah, very exciting session. Lots of what to say? Lots of good performances on track. Yeah, not so good for McLaren. And yeah, let's see what will happen in Bahrain.
Indeed, of course, the biggest surprise you'd have to say is Racing Point getting in front of the 2 Red Bulls there, being 3rd and 4th respectively, Roland being ahead of George. Well, that is it for day 2, and that is it from Barcelona, of course. This was the last day for testing in Barcelona, but the testing is not done because tomorrow we head off to the Middle East for the first of 2 days in Bahrain. Of course, day 4. For the second day at Bahrain, we will see the test drivers there, so be on the lookout for that. But that has been it for day 2. I hope you've enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. I've been JW97. He's been Dennis Graff. And we will see you tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. GMT, the same time as today, for day 3 of preseason testing, the first in Bahrain. Of course, me and Dennis, I don't think are commentating for tomorrow. I believe it is someone else.
Nope.
Some other 2 people who are commentating, so we'll have to wait and see on that.
But until then, but I won't tell.
Right, well, you'll have to wait till tomorrow. But until then, take care.